Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Frank Ryan, the state representative from the 101st District in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. Let's continue to explore why we need to get rid of property taxes. So as I started to look at this issue about how we can replace the property taxes for schools, it became really important that we really understand and help explain to people why this property tax issue is such a problem and such a burden for everybody. And so this is the second in a series of articles of 8 that we will be using as background material for our House Bill 13, which we will be introducing to discuss the reasons and the methodology to get rid of property taxes. So as we continue to explore the reasons behind our efforts to eliminate these property taxes, the concerns with the property tax as a means of taxation must be examined. For those people who are just getting involved in this debate, this article is really one in which we're attempting to explain all of the other basic concerns, issues dealing with property taxes. And they can be found at our website, www.repfrankryan.com. The right to personal property sets the United States apart from other nations. You know, my Marine Corps days, I'm a retired Marine colonel, I've been all over the world. And outside the United States, I can tell you the rights to property have long been subject to the realm of kings and queens, a feudal society of sorts. There's a tremendous anger surfacing due to the relentless loss of property and our government's explosive spending binge. Ravenous government spending mortgages ourselves, our children, and our property to an unrelenting assault by a government whose spending is out of control. The major negatives with property tax relate to these very issues. Property taxes are a fixed expense with no regard to the person's ability to pay. You know, I've seen situations in which people who have their property after the loss of a loved one, their spouse, are now paying 30% of their income for property taxes, whereas someone else might be paying 1.5%. One's property serves as collateral for a potential unlimited government spending. You heard that right. We'll be talking about that more. Taxes on property reduce the value of that property, and it also reduces the incentive to maintain the property. Property taxes are regressive, makes home ownership that much more elusive for a population. I want to really explain that issue. I came from a very poor family, and I started out with absolutely nothing in my career. And when people are poor and you're trying to get the benefits of a home ownership, it becomes almost impossible when you're trying to look at the burden created by that fixed expense, when you're also trying to maintain the other aspects of owning property. So contrary to popular belief, the property tax system started at the evolution of our country. It's been around for a long time, but I want to be aware of something here because it's really important. The evolution of our republic has allowed for the opportunity of owning property. I'm going back into the 1700s, and no, I wasn't there, and of voting rights to expand to most of the population. As such, the antiquated notion of the property tax may be negatively affecting the very people who are just now beginning to enjoy the American dream, evolving in this great experiment of the United States. In other words, at the inception of the United States, the property tax was only paid by wealthier people. And as property ownership became more apparent in the United States, more and more of us were able to own property. So that thing that worked well before in some extent actually now serves as a barrier to entry to people climbing that ladder of success of this great experiment we call America. The negative impact of a property tax system is that your property also serves as collateral for the government. Make no bones about it. In your school district, your property serves as a collateral for the unfunded pension obligations of your school district. I even have a bill out there that will require disclosure of how much unfunded pension liability is responsible for by your property. Ever-increasing property taxes have allowed municipal governments and schools to make promises that they could not possibly keep if they did not have such a reservoir of potential funds at their disposal. These promises have precipitated a record number of bankruptcies in other areas, and particularly in other states. And with the rapid rise in property taxes needed by most jurisdictions to cover their promises, and with lower pay and higher unemployment of taxpayers throughout the nation, the property tax is now forcing millions of Americans to reassess where they live, how they live, and if they can ever retire, let alone own their home. I actually had a person one time tell me, he said, the person bought too much house when they were complaining about the property taxes. And after they heard their own words, they were appalled at what they said, and then they became a supporter. The U.S. Constitution addresses and protects property rights in so many ways. The founders were worried that Congress, and I quote, might use the taxes system to loot property owners in some states for the advantage of other states. Accordingly, they required that direct taxes, most important property and income taxes, be apportioned among the states. That's Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, and Article 1, Section 9, and Clause 4 of the U.S. Constitution. They granted the federal courts jurisdiction over interstate land claims and interstate debts, the limit to the extent to which state courts could discriminate against the property rights of out-of-staters. That's Articles 3, Section 2, Article 1 and Clause 1, and Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2. They added the full faith and credit clause, partly to require state courts to honor property records in other jurisdictions and states. The founders gave Congress an unlimited power to dispose of public lands, but very limited power to acquire or hold other land. This was because they want most property to be publicly owned that was then to be transferred to the private sector. They also inserted a number of other checks and balances, designed partly to protect minorities from unfair property confiscations. Today, threats to property, particularly your home, are at epic levels, and the battle will shape the landscape of our home and nation forever. The American dream of home ownership and the liberty inherent in property are at risk. Ending property taxes will begin to restore the American dream to those most negatively affected by such an antiquated system as a property tax. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the second in a series of 8 articles explaining why we need to get rid of property taxes. Please read all of them, be informed, and provide your feedback as we start to get this ball rolling on getting property taxes eliminated in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and end school property taxes as a means of taxation. Thank you so much.